vulnerability isn't about just laying it all out there and let someone sort of stomp all over us. It's actually about just being real and authentic. Now, we have to know what that is for us before we can share that with somebody else. That means that we have to take those steps within ourselves first. And that gives us the confidence to actually then take it into our business world.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nusky here. I'm your host. I'm on the line with Liana Allison. How are you, Liana?
I'm very well, thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure, Liana. Now, we were talking just momentarily about emotions and how we can, use them in both our business and relationships. And unfortunately, it's something that we all have access to, but not so much mastery over. I was wondering if we could talk, take a deep dive into that topic. But first of all, share a little bit about yourself with the My Future Business audience.
Sure. So, what I do now is I'm a empathic leadership coach, and I've founded the Institute of Empathic Leadership. And what led me to that is I've been in business, like big private business. I had my own businesses for numerous years, and there wasn't quite the balance in it that I wanted. There was a lot of things that went wrong for me personally in my health and that sort of thing. So I started looking for a different way of actually being more authentic and more empowered in how I wanted to do business and the relationships that I formed through that. So I went looking for an alternative and came up with a combination of emotional mastery, mindset, action taking, and like you said, there's a lot of access what we can use through our emotions that we have never been taught how to use. So I like to specialize in actually helping people not only run their emotions easily, but to use them in a way that's really productive in their life, their relationships, and obviously that leads to business, of course.
Yeah, well, look, the unbridled energy, which is our emotions, they're obviously connected to our physical being. What are some of the things that we can talk about from a practical perspective of how our emotions are affecting our lives, not only externally, but internally and physically?
Sure. Well, it's actually been scientifically proven that emotions, trauma, memories are all stored in a form of energy in our cells. So every single cell will store an emotional history.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't actually access that emotional history, if we try to contain it, it will stay in our cells, and physiologically we will develop an illness from that. And that's actually been shown in science. So we have a vested interest in actually learning how to let our emotions flow, but in a way that is productive, not just sitting around crying all day because we're sad. That's just us being stuck in it, but actually learning from the emotions, the mind thoughts that go with it, and turning them into productive actions. And an example of that is, and particularly for women, we avoid anger. We like to keep everything nice and even keel, and we try to be the nice ones and things like that. But underneath all that, we've got a great deal of anger.
Yeah.
Now, anger is one of those energies and those emotions that if we don't access it, we're not fully able to access our energy of passion and creativity and action, because it all starts from that level of acceptance and integration of the anger. So if we learn about what we're angry about, learn about what we've got to do differently to change the situation that actually made us angry, and then use all that energy to drive ourselves forward, it's a whole different ball game for everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. A couple of things that have come out of that, Liana, is this idea of locking away in our cells all this anger and these pent up emotions, resulting in I'm not even sure what type of diseases there might be. One can only imagine. But not only that, you think to yourself, there's a message in here for business owners, which we'll talk about in a minute, but also for men. in their
Absolutely.
relationships with their partners, and women with other women, whatever the relationship construct might be. And I wonder, what are some of the things that maybe partners can look for and ask their partner about? Hey, look, you seem a little bit flat. You seem a little bit down. How do we unlock these discussions?
Well, it's as you said, it comes down to communication, and it is asking those questions that they're feeling-based questions. So, you know, I like you said, you appear a little bit flat today. What's going on for you? How are you feeling? What's behind it? So you encouraging them to actually go below the surface and actually really be honest in their communication. And that takes vulnerability and trust in the other person to be able to know that they will not only honor what they express, but to not judge it. And a lot of times we don't express ourselves on that vulnerable level because we fear being judged and rejected, which is a very common thing, not only in intimate relationships with partners and things, but in business and all sorts of things. So that's where we have to practice that in a safe environment, like with our partner, to then be able to take it into the rest of our world.
Yeah, it seems to me that the business world is a worlds apart from those intimate relationships we have. What are some of the methodologies that you would suggest for business owners and when they're working together and they're trying to unlock these emotional levels so that they can have a rich relationship in the business space?
I think it comes down, it's like the new style of leadership, the leadership that requires empathy. And that requires us to do our own personal work of understanding who we are so that we can understand others, because everyone is a reflection of ourselves in some way or shape. And so in business, it's actually about being confident in that no matter what someone else says or does, you're going to be okay. You don't take anything personally.
Yeah.
Now that's the personal growth side of it. So to actually step into that, once you've done that amount of work, when you're in business and you're not taking anything personally, you get less reactive, and therefore you can respond in whatever way that you desire in that situation. So it's a practice and it's something to maintain. It's like anything. If we want a new habit, we've got to practice it and actually do it every day and keep it uppermost in our conscious mind to really see where it takes us and see the rewards from it. So it's actually worth feeling a little bit vulnerable to start with and see those results happen.
It's very difficult to become vulnerable, I suspect, given that it's your makeup not to be vulnerable. You want to protect and you want to be in that position of control and be seen to be confident and all those things. But it could be a negative consequence for doing it that way, couldn't it?
Absolutely. I think the more that people learn how to, because vulnerability actually takes us into our confidence, our self-confidence. So if vulnerability isn't about just laying it all out there and let someone sort of stomp all over us, it's actually about just being real and authentic. Now we have to know what that is for us before we can share that with somebody else. So that means that we have to take those steps within ourselves first. And that gives us the confidence to actually then take it into our business world, where it is traditional that we have the mask up, we know what we're doing.
Yes.
But leadership nowadays is very much about, it's a team, it's about understanding and communicating very, very on an even basis rather than the hierarchy. And the hierarchies always put people above others. And as a tradition, that has not, it served us to a certain degree, but now we need to actually be able to be in charge, but to be a leader. And those two things now with the generations that are coming forward are going to be absolutely vital to get the best out of people because they want to be connected.
Well, it's, you talked about the generations, and prior to that, I was already thinking, given the large amount of people that you would work with, what are you seeing in terms of the changes in demographics and, Gen Y, Gen X and the rest of them? could you talk a little bit more about that? What are we seeing?
Well, I'm seeing they're certainly younger than me. The younger ones are far more expansive in their thinking, far more able to connect in a way and have different priorities. And a lot of it is about, as much as the internet world and everything, we go through social media and they connect through social media and that's to them is like their first language just about. They still, when we're in a one-to-one basis or in a where we are in a team live, then they want to feel connected. They want to actually they will not be talked down to, and they will not be directed without some good reason to be directed. So it's not like do that and don't ask questions. That's just not going to work. It's like, all right, this is the idea. What do you contribute? How can we collaborate in this to actually make it a really powerful new thing that we do in our business? So it is a lot more communication, a lot more connection. And that's why we as leaders have to learn to do that.
Yeah, I'm sort of placing myself in the boardroom, and I'm that senior manager looking over the other side of the desk to the up and coming generation, and they're very different than I am. I guess you use myself as a case study. Are you finding that the older generation are having a little bit of a difficult time, I guess, detuning this hierarchical, training that they've had over decades?
Certainly, yes. Majority, I would say yes. It is difficult for them to change, but that's only because they don't know how. They normally try and change just through mindset, because that's the traditional way of coaching, and they don't actually take in the emotional characteristics that are required for true leadership. So they just haven't got that final key of that emotional mastery, the emotional intelligence that we need to be the leaders that are required to actually not only get the best out of our team, but to actually get the best out of our business.
It could be quite stressful for any generation that's coming through trying to understand more about themselves. And I'm always focused on the practical steps that a person can take when we talk about important topics like this, Liana. And I wonder, what are some of the telltale signs that we're closing in on burnout and we need to step back?
Yes, absolutely. Those telltale signs are stress, either needing a lot of sleep or not getting any sleep because your mind just won't stop. So if your mind is just going a million miles an hour all the time, you're trying to solve problems all the time, you're trying to be the one that everyone looks to, so therefore you've got the ultimate responsibility. All of these things will start to show in your body. Your body will start to break down in regards to you'll start to get sick. It could be just a cold, it could be the flu, or it could be something bigger in regards to the dreaded cancer and all of those things. They will all start to show up if we don't take the steps that we need to be more in flow with what our body is looking for. And that's what happened to me. I got really sick in my business, and it was a huge wake-up call in regards to what am I doing that is not actually supporting me in my mind and in my emotions and in my body. So am I working 16 hours a day? Am I ignoring my family? Am I not getting the connection that I want with my family because of time? Am I taking ultimate responsibility for everything, having to find all the answers, which is just mind-blowing in regards to trying to do that. So these are all the things that you can look out for, and many more. But if anything feels like it's going against the grain of yourself, then have a look at that, see what's happening there.
Yeah, I look at this and I think about my life policy that I put people first. And even though we talk about building better businesses that last and thrive and prosper and all these wonderful things, there's always going to be that human side, and thus that physiological and emotional side that we need to take care of first.
Absolutely.
I'd love to go into a little bit of your history with this in terms of how it affected your family, so we can reflect on what I've just said and pass on some practical ideas that people might use to try and avoid that sort of same outcome?
Sure. Well, as I said, I was running a big tourism business. It
Yes.
was full on in regards to, tourism. It never stops.
No.
So, and I was at the front line basically and
Mm-hmm.
managing it and also working in it at the same time.
Yep.
So, as I said, I was always stressed. My mind was always trying to be 10 jumps ahead of myself, and my body wasn't keeping up. So that was when I did the flip and looked at okay, so I've got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I went looking for help to start with.
Yep.
I knew something had to change. I didn't know how to change it. So I went looking for somebody who could actually help me to see what I could not see for myself, because, you can't see the trees for the forest sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the things that I did was really ask myself some really core questions, such as, am I sacrificing myself, the betterment of myself, to be doing this particular thing right now? Am I going against my values in regards to this choice that I'm making right now? So I had to get very clear on what was important to me in my life and the priorities of those in regards to what came first, second, third, so that I knew that I was actually working in a way that supported me and the inner me, the part of me that had to feel good about
Yes.
everything that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely looking at values and what was important. And for me, the values was very much about spending more time with my sons and my partner,
Yep.
and having some free time where I could actually just be fully creative and in a relaxed mode, not 100% doing mind business stuff.
All the time.
So, I just had to slowly work out how to do all of that differently. And it ended up that I actually sold that business because it was ready to be sold first, but
Yep.
it was also a changing point in my life where I wanted to do something completely different, which is when I started going into the coaching realm in regards to helping others myself. So it was a complete change, but it wasn't a change because I was still doing business, but just in a different form that worked better for me.
Yeah, I think about, we're talking about feelings. How did you feel that moment that you made that change that released you emotionally?
I just felt so much lighter. It was such a relief. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. When I made that decision, it was like, oh, now life is really starting. Now I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
going to be doing something that is going to feed me rather than me feeding it.
Yep.
And that was a huge change for me.
I wonder if when somebody new comes to you, they find you at your website, which we'll share in a little while, at the Institute of Empathetic Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of your life experiences as a business professional, as a human being, are you talking about similar things? Is there some sort of an exploration process that you take them through? I wonder if you could talk to that.
Yeah, basically, as I've mentioned earlier, people have to be really clear about what's important for them,
Mm-hmm.
and to know that they're actually running their life to, as I said earlier, the values.
Yeah.
And what that entails in regards to because with values, you've got to have rules that you live them by. You can't just know, oh, my value is to spend more time with the family. How do you do that?
Yeah.
What are the boundaries around that, and how do you maintain your boundaries? So that's a core thing that everybody has to know right from the start. And then I take them into their individual direction. So how to, excuse me, how to actually get what it is that they want, if they know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't know what they want, then we go into an exploration around that as well. So I package it in a way that suits every individual and their own individual needs.
Fantastic. And when you're inviting people to come work with you, where will they find you?
I've got my website, which is www.lianaallison, which is lianaallison.com.au. You also find me on Facebook, good old Facebook, at the Institute of Empathic Leadership, Liana Allison. And if they wanted to join my group, I've got a support group online on Facebook, which is growing through relationships. And that's where I put a lot of my tools and tips and do Facebook Lives and things like that, so people actually can start the process more easily. If they don't know where to start, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, fantastic. And as is the case with every call that we do, we put the links back to the special guest. Now, I'd love to just deep dive a little bit, if we could, Liana, into how we harness the power of all of our emotions. You mentioned it here in your bio. There's some wisdom around how we can do that. And I guess we should focus in a little bit about the negative emotion, as you've put it in quotations there. What is this negative emotion? Why is there so much of it? Is it a global thing? Are we affecting each other? And how do we manage that?
Yes, well, people call them negative emotions or shadow emotions, the ones that we don't like, the ones that we judge. And I see them, they're actually where the gold is. That's where we need to go to actually be fully authentic in ourselves and fully in our power. Because if we're judging anything about ourselves, and our emotions are ourselves, then we're actually putting them aside. And if we're putting them aside and trying to keep them in this nice, pretty little box over here, and yet when I get angry, it all goes in there and it stays there. I don't actually, so many people say, I don't get angry. Well, you do, but you're actually just putting it in a box and you're locking it. Yeah, and that's the things that we need to go into. And the way that I help people do that is it's not just about opening the box and letting it explode. It's actually about opening the box with the consciousness of understanding where that emotion can take you. So what's the compensation gift? Why were you angry? What has it given you in your life? And a lot of people go, for example, I'm not good enough. And they have fear around that. Yeah. In actual fact, I'm not good enough gives us the ability to try really hard. Because if we're never good enough, we're always striving, we're always stepping forward, we're always trying to put the best effort in. So there's always a compensation for whatever it is we've put in the box and we judge. There is something really golden in there that if we see it from that point of view, we straight away can use it consciously. So it's not got control over us. We actually have control over it, and we use it to step up in life, to step forward in our business, to be more open in our relationships, and to have a better relationship by not having these cover-ups, not having these masks that say, I'm okay. Well, we're not really okay. We just, we like to think we are, and we just need to learn how to not be okay, not make that wrong, and use it to actually be 100% really, really viable in life.
Yeah, well, there you go, everybody. If you want to take off that mask, be it professionally or privately, Liana is certainly the person to work with. Liana, people will be coming to see you, no doubt about that, at lianaallison.com.au. Liana, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business Show today.
Thank you, Rick. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.